Today, I'm going to tell you an interesting story about the life of St. Luke. St. Luke is also known as the patron saint of physicians and the author of the Gospel of St. Luke. He was born in the 1st century AD in Antioch, a bustling city in ancient Syria. Unlike some of the followers of Jesus, St. Luke was not Jewish. He was a Gentile of Greek origin, which made him unique among the Gospel writers. He was also a very intelligent person, for he studied medicine in Alexandria, where he became a physician before he met Jesus. This is important to understand because among the early Christians, St. Luke was one of the few followers with a strong educational background and a professional career. One interesting fact about him was that St. Luke never met Jesus in person. He was not even one of the 12 apostles. He only knew Jesus through St. Paul, where they met in Turkey around 50 AD. During this time, St. Luke went to Turkey to practice his profession as a physician. Then he met St. Paul and was converted to Christianity and became St. Paul's companion and, at the same time, his personal writer, doctor, and his best friend. According to some Bible scholars, St. Paul chose St. Luke because he was a well-educated man and was able to write not just in Greek, but also in other languages. There were times when Paul was arrested and was imprisoned. St. Luke stayed beside him and wrote letters dictated by St. Paul inside prison that would later be sent to his followers. In the year 60 AD, St. Luke decided to do something bold. He started gathering stories about Jesus from the eyewitnesses, including Mary, John, and many others. He took great care in documenting everything, and as a result, he authored the Gospel of St. Luke. It became one of the most detailed and compassionate tellings of the life of Jesus Christ. He emphasized Jesus' love for the poor, the outcasts, and the sinners, especially those often left behind by society. His gospel was also the only one that includes the beautiful story of the Annunciation and the birth of Jesus in the manger, giving us the nativity story we know and love today. It was also the longest of the 4 Gospels and had stories you won't find in any other Gospels, which were the parable of the prodigal son and the Good Samaritan. These 2 stories came straight from Luke's pen, which he gathered from the eyewitnesses of Jesus' ministry. According to some Bible experts, St. Luke wrote the Gospel in a beautiful narrative way because he was a Gentile, meaning he wrote it in a way that non-Jewish readers of his Gospel could understand and learn about Jesus of Nazareth, who was the Savior. After he wrote his Gospel, he then wrote the Acts of the Apostles. It was a book that accounts for the life of the early Christian church, from miracles, prison breaks, shipwrecks, and martyrdom of the early believers of Jesus Christ. Without this writing, we would not know half of what we do about the early Christian world. After writing, St. Luke continued preaching in Turkey and in Greece. Around 84 AD, when he was preaching in Thebes in Greece, a pagan priest had him arrested, and he was hanged from an olive tree where he died as a martyr. After his death, his followers buried his body and honored him with a special tomb. In 357 AD, Emperor Constantius II moved his relics to Istanbul, Turkey, where it was placed inside the Church of the Holy Apostles. It was a major church where several apostles and early Christian saints were honored. In 1461, this church was destroyed by Ottomans to build the Fatih Mosque. Today, St. Luke is venerated as the patron saint of physicians, artists, surgeons, and notaries. His feast day is celebrated every 18th of October. If you like stories like this, follow, like, and subscribe.